Obituaries are sponsored by Colonial Funeral Home and Stokes Chapel, Fair, Ray, and Perry Spencer Funeral Homes, Boone and Cook Funeral Home and Crematory.
Family graveside services for Cassie Broadnax Hampton are today at 11 o'clock. Graveside services for Alfred C. Hampton are today at 2 o'clock. Perry Spencer Funeral Home in Eden is in charge of arrangements. Memorial services for Alfred L. Head Williams, Jr. are tomorrow at 11 o'clock at 403 North Franklin Street in Madison. Perry Spencer Funeral Home in Madison is in charge of arrangements. Arrangements for John L. Hairston, 71 of Eden, and Sadie Adams, 93 of Eden, are incomplete at Perry Spencer Funeral Home in Eden. Arrangements for Grant Morris, 22 of Walnut Cove, are incomplete at Perry Spencer Funeral Home in Madison. James Jimmy Richard Schwartz, Jr., 62, died Wednesday. Graveside services will be held Sunday at 2 o'clock at Woodlawn Cemetery. He was born in Leakesville, was a graduate of Moorhead High School, class of 1976, and previously worked for Fillcrest Mills. Survivors, sisters Lynn Overby of Ruffin and Lisa Denny of Eden. The family would like to offer their appreciation to Dr. Parsons and the staff at the Bryan Center for their care and support. Fair Funeral Home is serving the family. Graveside services for Robert Lee Franklin will be held Saturday, October 10th at 1 o'clock at Berry Hill Cemetery. Fair Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. Memorial graveside services for Bobby Robertson are scheduled for Thursday, October 15th at 1 o'clock at Overlook Cemetery. Fair Funeral Home is serving the family. Funeral services for Robert Glenn Ogburn, Jr. of Stoneville will be held on the grounds of First Baptist Church in Eden, where he was a lifelong member, Saturday, October 10th at 11 o'clock. The family will receive friends after the service. Fair Funeral Home is serving the family. Outside memorial services for the Reverend Gregory Keith Collins, 59 of Sandy Ridge, are today at 11 o'clock at Delta United Methodist Church, where he was pastor. Colonial Funeral Home, Stokes Chapel, is serving the family. Graveside services for Jeffrey Dean Pruitt of Bassett are today at 2:30 at Woodland Cemetery with military honors by the Rockingham County Honor Guard. The family will receive friends starting at 1. Colonial Funeral Home is serving the family. Memorial services for Pansy Marie Wagner Korn will be held tomorrow at 1 o'clock at Colonial Funeral Home, Stokes Chapel, with interment in Pleasant Grove Primitive Baptist Church Cemetery. The family will receive friends 2 hours prior to the service. Healing begins at Roselawn Memorial Gardens, Ashley Loop, Reedsville, and at Reedlawn Cemetery, Barn Street, Reedsville. Follow us on Facebook, Roselawn Memorial Gardens and Reedlawn Cemetery.